What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I had to talk about the Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012 soundtrack. Now, I have been jumping back on this game and playing it a bit more, and the first thing I noticed right off the bat was 100% the soundtrack, man. Like, it was so good. It also kind of made me think, though, like, all the newer Need for Speed games seem to be going a bit backwards with it. At least I have been noticing many players talking about the soundtracks in the newer games not being as good as the older ones. Like, for example, guys, I would say for me at least, Most Wanted's probably number one on the list. And then right behind that, easily if not tied, is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2010. Like, the soundtracks were so much fun to listen to when racing around. Now, obviously, I can't play them because I would get copyright strike by the songs, but when looking at a few forums and stuff and looking up things about the soundtrack, everybody seems to love the soundtrack in Most Wanted. Like, it was legit that good. And I just feel like a lot of players might go, okay, so it has great songs, but why don't other newer Need for Speed games have better soundtracks in them? To be honest, guys, I can't really answer that. I feel like it has to do with something with maybe like a licensing issue, or maybe there's going to be a whole reason why they don't put good music in the game. Honestly, I am not really sure. Let me know in the comments. I don't really know why that would be a thing. But I do believe Most Wanted 2012 had around 40 or so songs. No. But I do believe Most Wanted 2012, I think, had like 40 or something songs like that. Like, it was around that number. And basically any song in the game you can obviously jam out to it, race, mess with the police, and all kinds of stuff, guys. It just had such a dope setting. And then, of course, on top of that, throw in like the Fairhaven map, and boom, you're most likely going to be in for a treat. And the funny part about this, though, jumping back onto Most Wanted, guys, it has legit been around 10 or 11 years since I have actually played it. The first thing I did was I actually jammed down the introduction part of it, where I believe the song is Butterflies and Hurricanes, which is like the known song of Most Wanted. And my goodness, though, I was legit jamming out. Like, it instantly brought me back the memories of this game when I played it back in the day, and I really did love the entire soundtrack on it, especially Butterflies and Hurricanes. Like, I was actually listening to that song a lot back in the day when I was in high school and stuff like that, and I was always like, man, this song is dope. It always brought me back to Most Wanted. And this also made me think about something, though. Like, a good soundtrack in a game really does make a difference. Not only is it going to be a great experience listening to good music while racing in an actual, racing game with music that fits it, but it's also going to be the kind of thing to where if you hear that song in a few years after it, all of those memories are then going to pour back in, and boom, you're like, you know what, bro, I gotta jump back on that game and play it again. I actually feel like that's a good way to look at that. The other song I really love was The City. I'm sure everybody knows this one. There's obviously a place in the distance, and I have pretty much been dreaming of playing Most Wanted there, which now I am, and other old racing games because they're just that good. But there is going to be a couple of more songs I did want to mention. Feel the Love by John Newman, guys, is just absolutely fire and Most Wanted. Fitted this game so dang well. The other one I really like, which funny thing is I actually heard this one in a Michelin commercial, Double Edge by P Money and Sway. When I heard that, guess what it did? It instantly brought me back to Most Wanted, man. Like, I heard that and I was like, yo, that song's from 2012. You know what? I actually need to play that game again. Maybe that's what a really good playlist actually does to a game, having better music in it. Like, you're going to have great memories, you listen to those songs, and then when you actually hear one of them around, you're like, yo, I actually have to go play that game. This also happens a lot in Grand Theft Auto. That one song on Nonstop Pop was basically stuck in my head for legitimately days after seeing that meme with that one chick talking on the radio thing, which I do know is somewhere AI and stuff, but man, that song was legit stuck in my head. I would actually hear certain songs in like the mall or being out somewhere, and I was like, yo, bro, that song's in Grand Theft Auto, and it instantly makes you bring back those memories and want to go jump back onto that game. So I would actually say having a good soundtrack is important. Now, as I did mention earlier, I don't know why certain games nowadays don't have the best soundtrack. Like, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below, guys. Which game would you say, this could be any racing game, which game do you guys think had the best soundtrack and why? And do you also think newer games don't have as good as a soundtrack as the older ones did? Like, let's go take a look at the new Need for Speed games, for example, to where some of the songs, like, you might like some of them, but many of the songs, like, players are like, you know what, I'm going to throw on Spotify or YouTube or something, let me listen to that one, because the songs in this game are just not all that. We also saw a decent update with new music on Motorfest recently, which I have to admit was actually pretty dang good compared to what it had before. This can also be seen in like the Crew 2 and the Crew 1 with like the music not being all that. Like, you might listen to a few songs and go, I mean, they're kind of mid, bro. Like, I'll just mute the music and put my own on. But no, you jump back onto something like Most Wanted 2012, and you are legit racing and jamming out to each song. Like, it is insane, guys. But does anybody else think that newer Need for Speed games or even new racing games seem to be a bit odd when it does come to, like, the actual playlist in it? Now, don't get me wrong, I do know this can probably be some type of, like, licensing thing, or maybe some of the songs just are not allowed to be in the games. I'm really not sure which one it is. I mean, maybe they don't want to be in like a racing game. Maybe they don't like cars. Honestly, bro, I have no idea, but it would probably make sense for some of these dope songs to be in the racing games because that would probably be even better. And I do know for a fact a lot of players would most likely listen to it. Now, obviously, though, I do make a lot of content and stuff, so I normally have the music off on most games because, copywriting and stuff like that if I had those songs jamming out. Like the first time I actually did a playlist back in the day on Motorfest, which to be precise on that was the Vintage Garage playlist. Like I did end up posting it, and then around an hour or two later, I obviously had to take it down, go and redo all the playlists with no music on, and then boom, they were obviously fine. So I do understand, like, if you are making content and stuff, then yeah, the music might not matter. But I still feel like if you're not, though, or you're even just playing a game in general, having good music is such a key part of it, man. I really do wonder why newer racing games don't have the best soundtracks in them. Unless I might be tripping out, guys, again, let me know of a Need for Speed game that came out in the recent times. This can be Unbound, Payback, Heat. Let me know if any of those games had good soundtracks that you actually liked them. I did actually listen to the one in Heat a bit. Like, it was okay, but I was still like, it's not that great, man. Like, yeah, some of the music is okay. I do know Nighttime had different music than Daytime did. Some were alright, but again, it just could have been so much better. Especially being in like a racing game that has police like Need for Speed, for example, it's obviously going to be intense by itself, so if you throw in some dope music on top of it, it's going to make that experience even crazier. But besides all that, though, I can easily keep going on and on about this, guys, but I would like to know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Do you also think that a soundtrack does help a game out? Do you actually like having a good soundtrack in a game? And do you also agree that the newer racing games are not as great as the older ones? And what do you think the biggest factor of that is? That is the reason why the newer soundtracks aren't as good as the old ones.